Much, Regina, and good morning and welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this edition of the New England Chapter Connects. A very important topic for sure, especially with that everyone's gearing up for the upcoming winter season. Today's topic is, as you see there, the road to environmentally sustainable winter operations through technology. We have over 125 participants who have registered for today's session, and they're joining us near and far. We have folks from California and Colorado, Indiana, Ohio, New York, and elsewhere. So welcome, everyone. Great to see you all. My name is Rich Benevento. I am the APWA Region 1 Director, and I'm also the co-chair of the New England Chapter Public Works Awareness Committee. If you've participated in some of our previous sessions about winter operations, hopefully you found them informative and were able to pick up a few tips. With every winter storm event, public works operations are affected by all sorts of factors, as we all know, weather conditions, of course, staffing, that seems to be the big issue right now, budgets, material costs, and environmental impacts. We have a great panel today who will be discussing the metrics of materials, staffing, budget and optimization, and with that, sustainability and efficiency. All very much a part of a public works agency, particularly during winter operations. This should be a great discussion, and we have a great panel, so we're glad that you're able to join us this morning. Just a couple things before we get started. First, many thanks to our Public Works Awareness and Education Committees. These committees continue to develop events, promotions, new ideas, and many other programs, working hard to promote the value and importance of public works in our communities and in our lives in the communities we serve. So they're doing great work to promote public works. If you're interested in getting involved with any of our committees, or you're not an APWA member and you'd like to be, you can reach out to me or any of our committee members. We'd love to have you join up. Also, a big shout out to Regina Hackett and the entire team at the Connecticut T2 Center for their help in producing our New England Chapter Connect series. Regina does a fantastic job organizing the communications, logistics, and technology for all of our New England Chapter Connects program. She keeps us moving. So thank you, Regina and team. We obviously could not do this without you. And of course, a big shout out to our New England Chapter sponsors. Without the support of our sponsors, we could not bring all of the valuable programs and events to our members in the public works community. Our sponsors continue to step up with the continued support of the chapter and our public works community. So thank you very much to our New England Chapter sponsors, a big part of our New England Chapter. The New England Chapter Connects program was originally created to keep all of us connected and informed during the COVID-19 pandemic. However, we found that based on your feedback, that the New England Chapter Connects Learning Series is providing a platform to stay informed on the topics of the day facing public works professionals, and a way to stay connected. By the way, for those of you who responded to our New England Chapter Connect survey on topics you'd like to see in the future, we want to thank you for that. We've got some great feedback, and we have a great lineup coming up after the first of the year, things relative to facilities and grounds and so many other topics. So we hope you'll tune in for those. And our new November session should be extra special. We have a motivational speaker, Kenya Rutland, joining us. Regina, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about Kenya. I know you've been working with him.
Oh, absolutely. Actually, we've been discussing as a subcommittee for about 2 years about this idea of kind of getting a motivational speaker in as a kind of a gift to our audience. And so we've been kind of working behind the scenes on this, and then we've all agreed upon that Kenya Rutland was the right pick. He's definitely a friend of Public Works. He's very high energy. We met with him and discussed the messaging that we want to get across. So we are really encouraging everyone to register on November 17th. We're asking all of the crew leaders and everything, maybe plan a special kind of lunch and learn with your group. Kenya is really a special gift, and maybe you can get some pizza for the crew. It's only an hour long, November 17th. I'll put the registration link in the box after we're done here, but please join us.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Regina. Yeah, Kenya's a great motivational speaker, builds confidence among staff, things like commitment and accountability. So yeah, you want to make sure you try and sign up for that one. If you or your staff or crew have missed any of our New England Chapter Connect sessions, you can watch them anytime by logging onto the New England Chapter website. All of our New England Chapter Connect sessions are there. as well as other information, and that's newengland.apwa.net. So, okay, let's get going. You didn't sign up to listen to me today. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our moderator this morning for today's program. That's Dave Pinsino. Dave is no stranger to our Public Works community. He's the Public Works Director for the town of Lexington, Massachusetts, an APWA accredited public works agency, and has been in the public works field for over, 147 years, Dave. I think that's what it was. Dave is a member of our APWA's Facilities and Grounds Technical Committee. And in December, Dave will be sworn in as a new member of the New England Chapter Board of Directors. So congratulations, Dave, on that. Dave is actively involved in our chapter on our Public Works Awareness Committee, as well as many other initiatives. A public works professional of the highest caliber and a good friend to Public Works and the chapter. Please welcome our moderator this morning, Dave Pinsino. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning. Hope everybody is doing well. I want to get right into the program. We've got some really good speakers for you this morning. We have Nick, and I know Pinsino is hard to say, but I think it's Repetka. That's correct. Okay. We have John Zaccardi and Kevin Flanders, and they're going to share with you some of those technologies. And as Rich mentioned, looking at sustainability, optimization, and efficiency in our winter operations. So what I'm going to do is, Nick is with the town of Shrewsbury. He's the highway division manager. John Zaccardi is with the town of Lexington here. He's our highway equipment and drain superintendent. And we have Kevin Flanders, who's president of People GIS. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with the program and throw out a few questions for these panelists, and then we'll have that dialogue. So Nick, I'll start with you. If you can tell us kind of how and why you developed your current winter operations program.
Well, John and Kevin and Dave and Rich and Regina, thanks for having me today. Pretty honored to speak at this program. So I just want to tell everybody I developed a brine program a couple of years ago from zero. We had nothing. All I had is a 735 gallon tank, and we used that primarily to fill our street sweepers because we didn't have the ability to fill from the hydrant. So I said, well, we have the equipment. Why don't we see if we can utilize this for second operation? And so I got the buy-in from my director at the time. This was 2018. We started this to get some trials going with the city of Worcester. They had a program already started with a brine generator and whatnot. So they agreed if I brought them salt, they'd make the equivalent of brine and we could come down and fill up. We did the trials with that 2 seasons. I got the town manager to buy in with it. Actually, I can share a couple pictures with you that we, that's our spray tank that we had and used just to do the trials, and even got the town manager to buy in. That's a picture of his driveway. That he took the information that I gave him and he sprayed his driveway prior to one of the storms. With that buy-in with the town manager and whatnot, we actually purchased our new brine maker last season. It was the first year we did that. I had 3,000 gallons of storage. We sprayed 20,000 gallons last year of brine, and we saw huge results in not using granular to lead our program as a pre-treatment. The brine, obviously, as everybody knows, sticks to the roads better. We can do it a day or so beforehand as conditions allow, and it's made our program super efficient. The guys bought into it. I actually purchased a second storage tank and a second sprayer this over the summer, and I'm going to add that into our program coming this year. I got to give a lot of credit to Mike Smith from Bay State Roads and Kevin Collins. He's with the town of Westminster now. They've helped me along the way develop this program and build it, from zero to what it is.
So Nick, you mentioned that you got buy-in from your staff. How did you go about doing that?
Well, myself and my foreman were developing the program and installing equipment, and the guys, I have a pretty young staff. They're all within the last 5 years for the most part. They just wanted to know what was going on. They wanted to see what's this thing in the corner making all this noise, filling these tanks. And, I sent them to a couple of classes with the Bay State Roads program. to learn about liquids and then the snow and ice program. And that's how they got that buy-in for it. They actually saw results as we were doing these trials and saw the benefit it could bring to, not call them in as early because we were putting this product down on the road prior to any storm. Just gained our efficiency, and the guys like it. They seem to work well with it.
Oh, great. And do you use any additives in your brine?
We do a little bit. We haven't pushed that end of it. I do have a calcium, 30% calcium with molasses that's mixed in. And when conditions allow, we do add that to it as the colder weather persists.
Okay, great. Can you just talk about some of the other technologies that you're using in your program and why those are important?
Sure. We actually, all of our trucks, all of our granular spreaders are all ground speed controlled. We have Cirrus Smart Spread in every truck, all 10 of them. The guys bought into that. They see the results that has done. We also did a route optimization that was completed about halfway through last winter. We redesigned all of our plow routes and our salt routes, and we even developed one for our sidewalk route. All the trucks have the ability to have tablets in them to navigate everybody through this, through the town the most efficient way possible.
Okay, and putting these technologies into your program, what kind of benefits have you seen for efficiency, sustainability, and also, in this age of MS4, helping with those environmental impacts?
Oh, we have certainly seen a reduced use in salt, not only from the brine program, because we're obviously using less granular material on the front end, but what's also seen with the ground speed controllers and calibration of our vehicles, a significant drop in the amount of salt and still gaining the same results. And MS4, I mean, we've gone from, if I remember right, if the numbers haven't escaped my brain, we've gone from 700 or 800 ton of spring street sweeping down to about 200 ton. Significant reduced, especially spring sweeping.
Okay, great. We appreciate that. So I'm going to move over to Kevin now, Kevin Flanders. And Kevin, can you just tell us, you've developed a snow ops program. So can you just talk about why your company pursued that and developed that?
Well, that kind of found us, actually. We had some client communities reach out to us and share how hard it was for them during snow operations and invited me to watch. So I did that. I sat in their offices and I watched them have to call contractors in the middle of the night and bring staff in and all the little yellow sticky pieces of paper they used to keep track of arrival times and whatnot. It was very, very difficult. And so we actually worked with a handful of clients to develop it several years ago. And that's what really got us started is the need. I've been working with public works for 30 years, and I was really not really aware of this acute problem of focusing on tracking costs during an event.
Okay, and that's certainly something we like to hear from a client to vendor standpoint, that we come up with an idea, how can you help us with that issue or with that problem, as opposed to, oh, here's a system I have, go ahead and use it. So we do appreciate that approach. So you mentioned a few things, but what types of information is that capable of tracking to help out clients, to help out communities?
Well, there's really three focuses. The first and the original was tracking contractors' contracts and tracking their check-in and check-out times so that we can compute all of their costs in real time throughout the storm. And what I found really funny about that was the big problem was getting contractors to get their invoices in on time throughout the year. This seems to be a consistent problem. And so the software will actually develop their invoices for them and email them to the contractors, eliminating that whole waiting period. We also were tracking staff, their check-in and check-out. We're tracking holidays and holiday pay. We're tracking all of their payment rules. When you check somebody in, are you rounding to 15 minutes or what have you? And so it's all of that. And then most recently, a few years ago, we started tracking the materials as well. So, the brine that's being loaded and salt and other materials that people are playing with as they reduce their costs that way. But that information is all coming in as well. So at any point in time in the storm, you can ask yourself, or the software rather, what have I spent so far? And it's pretty intriguing stuff.
Okay, and so what, and again, you touched on a little bit, but what types of reports can we look at once the storm's complete, or things that information that we may need for our decision makers and things like that?
Well, as soon as you close out a storm, you can produce a PDF report of a storm summary with all of your costs, listing out all of the contractors that participated, all their time in and time out. Same with staff, and of course your summary costs. The one that really gets people though is the payroll report. There it is, ready to hand over to payroll immediately upon closing a storm. The invoices, of course, for the contractors is kind of fun. I love that one. But some of them, their favorite report is when they're done with the storm, they print out their seasonal summary. Here's what you've spent so far compared to your budget. This used to take our clients days. They'd follow a storm and they're exhausted. They just put in 3 days in a row. And now they got to worry about paperwork because, this afternoon's a meeting with the town manager. So I think those are the reports that are key. Okay, great. And so kind of to tie that in a practical application, I'll go over to John for a moment. John, we've got the snow ops program. Can you just talk a little bit about how that's helped our winter maintenance program?
Sure. One of the things that it is good about that program is it starts before the storm even starts, and it goes all the way through to the end of the storm. So it has the capability of, we don't like to kind of call people in the middle of the night. We try to plan ahead of time. So we can do the planning right in the Snow Ops app, and it will text our staff and let them know what time they're expected to be in, whether they're in the treating crew or the plowing crew. And so they get a text, and then they respond to that text. So we know that they got the text, they responded that they're coming in, and then we look over that report. And if we have people who didn't respond, instead of making 40 calls, now we only have to make 3 or 4 or 5 for the people that didn't respond. And then we can have it all scheduled so that when the time comes, it already starts to log their hours. It tracks their time. Then we add in contractors. We're constantly adding in the amount of product we're using so that it's following the storm. And then at the end of the storm, like Kevin said, we can get a report, in this case, Dave is our director, so I can get that report to Dave the next day or, 2 days later when that storm's all completed. It includes the sidewalks, product, and then he gets that full report that he needs to pass on to the others in town.
Okay, and just sticking with you, John, can you talk about some of the other technologies that you've included in the current snow program?
Sure. I just highlighted 7 different technologies that we use here in Lexington. And, I had the benefit of coming into a program that's really been put together over about the last 10 years. So I know here in Lexington, from looking at all the numbers, we've limited salt. We've lowered salt use by about 40% over the last 10 years. So that's a pretty significant amount, especially with, salt coming in. I know this year ours went up $5 a ton over last year, and last year went up considerably over the previous year. So it's bringing the cost down, and also environmentally, which is, what this webinar is about. It's better for the environment. It's better for the infrastructure for the town. So it's a win-win for everybody. So I have some slides I'm going to use along with it. So planning starts for us, days or hours before the storm. Are you all seeing my screen?
Yes.
Because I don't see it. Okay. So first starts with the weather. We have a weather service that is specifically for Lexington, so we can see what to expect over the next 10 days. And so we start planning ahead of time so we know what's coming. Weather is like the first thing I do when I get up in the morning, and it's the last thing I do before I go to bed at night, so that there are no surprises down the road for us. This is ClearPath Weather, but I also use one that's available to everyone is National Weather Forecast Service, the National Weather Service. They do a nice 10-day, and if you're a weather buff like I am, they also have a feature called area forecast discussion, where the meteorologist on call goes through the specific of how they came up with their forecast. So when your local media is telling you you're going to get a blizzard on Friday, they're telling you, yeah, there's a 10% chance of a blizzard, but it's still up in the air whether you're going to see one or not. So you know how to plan and how much stock to put into it. Another thing we use is an NEAPWA station, or road weather information system, which is a weather station. So we have one located in the center of town. The weather forecast tells you what's going to happen. This tells you what is happening right now in your town on the ground. So here's a snapshot I actually did yesterday. So you're getting air temperature, dew point. So obviously yesterday was raining, so they're very similar. We get a level of grip. That's a real key factor for us, because it tells you, what are the cars experience on the road. So 82 is perfect. So yesterday was raining, so it's down to 72. When you hit 40, that's where you need to do something pretty quick, because at 40, people are starting to lose traction. At like 20, they're off the road. So it's a chance for you to see what's happening on the ground, and we know when to treat, when not to treat. Surface state, also surface temperature. It doesn't show up on the dashboard, but this also gives us the temperature 16 inches below ground. So we also know what's the state of the ground. So if it's 35 and the ground temperature and the base temperature is 35, then we're probably not treating. But if the temperature is 35 and it's raining, but our base temperature is 29, then we're probably treating, because the ground surface is freezing, even though the air temperatures are higher. So this is a big, important part for us, is that station. Also, similar to Kevin, we use brine also in liquid. This is one of our spreaders. It has the capability of adding liquid to our salt. It'll spray on top of the salt. We can do just liquid, or we can do just salt. So this spreader carries 5 tons of salt and 500 gallons of liquid. So we have that capability of using the brine and additives right off the truck in those 3 forms. So with this truck, when we go out and our crew goes out to de-ice before the storm, we can treat the entire town in one shift, and that includes all of our parking lots. So it's a great capability that gives us that ability to anti-ice the entire town, and it's very helpful in preparing for storms. This is our brine generator. We do similar to Kevin. We have our brine. This is our brine generator outside. We have ours outside. If you have the ability to put it inside, you're better off, but we have it outside. It works fine. We don't have a problem with that. And this is our storage. We store, those are 6,000 gallon tanks. So we store 12,000 gallons of brine and then 12,000 gallons of a carbohydrate additive. And our mixing station, where the trucks connect, it blends the materials right together. We can tell on our computers ahead of time what we want to put in the trucks. It'll mix it, put it in the trucks. It knows how much each truck can hold, and it fills it accordingly. On the bigger tanks, it can load as fast as 150 gallons a minute. And for the smaller tanks, it'll load slower so that you don't get any type of foaming. We also use, this is a screenshot of some of the snow ops that I was talking about. This is a copy of one of the reports. It shows at the end of a storm, we can see all of the employee costs, contractor costs, material costs, and what a storm actually cost us in real amounts down. As you can see it, it'll figure it down to the penny. This is just a screenshot showing our contractors, each piece of equipment, how many hours they worked, what their costs were, and then our staff. It shows our staff. And as you can see, some of them came in, worked, and then went home, came back, or they did different things. So it'll itemize, and then we can determine when that event starts and stops. Another thing that we use are high performance cutting edges. It's important that if we want to reduce our salt usage, that we get the snow off the street before we try to get rid of that snow. Old school, we'll just burn it off. Well, science tells us that if you want to get snow off the street, if it's 23 degrees out and you're trying to get rid of 1 inch of snow completely, that can be up to 3,000 pounds of salt per lane mile to do that. And that's not efficient. It's not cost effective. So we use these high performance glades in an effort to get the snow off the roads. They have steel on either side, rubber in the middle with ceramic dowels that not only help get, scrape the roads and get the snow off, but it also helps prevent wear. And we use them on all our plows, large or small. Right now, we're at about 75%. We anticipate that over the next few years, as plows get replaced, we'll be at 100% for these cutting edges. And then the last thing that it's kind of new, we're starting to work into the program, our AVLs, or the automatic vehicle location devices. We have them on all of our vehicles. They can let us know whether a vehicle is treating or not treating, whether a plow is up or down. And so it can tell us, if we look at a street, what was the last time that street was plowed? When was the last time that street was treated? So it helps us with oversight to make sure that we're accomplishing the goals that we have set for this department. So those are the bigger of the 7 things that we use for this department.
All right, thanks, John. And John, how do you go about getting the buy-in from your employees and then the decision makers?
Well, the biggest thing is that it works. Like Kevin said, at first everyone's reluctant, but over a period of time, when they start to see that they don't have to be on the road as long because the trucks can cover more ground. So instead of, being out for 3 hours, now they can do their whole routes in 2 hours. So they start to see the product work. They're also, when they're out plowing, that they have the traction they need to do their job. So I think that's the biggest thing about buying, is that getting a program that works.
Oh, great. Thank you. And I know Kevin would like to be out plowing, but it's actually Nick in
I'm sorry, Nick.
Shrewsbury, but that's okay. Nick, I'm going to just throw back to you. You mentioned you did a route optimization. Can you just talk a little bit about how you went about doing that? Did you do it yourself? Did you have a consultant come in? And then kind of what were the results of that, and how'd you get buy-in for that? If routes became longer or shorter, or if you can just take us through that.
Sure. This process started 2 or so years ago. We have historic plow routes that were developed by my predecessor, John Knight, who's been in the business for, I think he retired with 33 years as superintendent. And, like any town, as developments and subdivisions are added into the area, they just migrated into plow routes, right? So we had no historic knowledge on how these were developed. So we solicited a couple companies, and I actually worked with Quantica out of Minnesota. They gave us our best presentation, and we gave them all the information we possibly could, worked with our GIS team through our engineering department in town, and they took our routes and just developed all new ones. I gave them what we have for staff, and then what we anticipate every year for contractor help for plow routes, but specifically, we were utilizing right now 8 salt routes. That's exactly what we had before. So a credit to my predecessor, a credit to John and the staff that came before me in these positions, because we went in there with 8 routes and we came back out with 8 routes. So he did a fantastic job on organizing that. Yeah, they tweaked them a little bit. They certainly made them a lot more even. Some trucks had upwards of 30 miles per route. Another truck, I think the lowest was like 21 or 22. So they certainly were, there was quite a swing in it. They took everything and they actually put it on tablet. The intent was to put it on paper, just so we had a redesigned routes. But they put them as an afterthought on with the navigation that we have today. We've used them, we've tried them, we use them for training, but of course I got to give credit to my staff, because the best asset you have is the guy behind the wheel. They know their route better than any computer. So we use them for training purposes, but it did exactly what we wanted it to do. It came in, the company came in and took out all the information that we gave them and redesigned our routes and to eve them off. I mean, we were in the 3-hour range, 3.5 hour before. We're down to, I'm going to narrow it down to about a minute. 2:39 is what the average is from what we were before to what we are with the new optimized routes. And like I said, we utilize them for the salt. Plowing can be so unpredictable with the amount of pieces of equipment you have. So we started with the easier steps to take on, because I know I'm going to have 8 drivers every time. I know that's my staff, that's my buy-in. 8 drivers and a loader operator. So I know those trucks are going to go on the road every single time. And then the sidewalk route too. We wanted to get prioritization for, we only have 2 pieces of equipment. I mean, everybody wants to be first, right? So we kind of gave the company what we do now, and they designed 2 routes for two pieces of equipment to prioritize it the best they possibly could. And I'm going to say that works very good with training. I mean, I've heard it best from somebody else, and I always say it, whenever you're doing sidewalks, it's probably the most expensive piece of equipment, or one of the most expensive pieces of equipment you have, and you always put the least experienced operator in it, right? So if you can get them, you know, the easiest way to do something without just handing them a piece of paper, I think it's very valuable.
Oh, that's great. And then you're able to take that information and show it to the decision makers, and here's how we operate. That's been helpful.
Of course, yeah, and you know, I can look at the route optimization right from my computer. I can see where all the pieces of equipment are logged on a map. Of course, it's not public facing by any means, but I can see where those trucks are and what they've completed. It doesn't coexist with the ground speed controller. It's more or less just a location, and I can see what's been done and what's been not done.
Yeah, I'm sure John would appreciate only having 8 routes, but we have a few more than that in Lexington. Thank you for that. That's very good. Kevin, I'll go back to you for a second. You've heard a couple of both Nick and John talk about route optimizations, AVL, the automatic vehicle locators. I know you do GIS. Are those some things that you're looking at down the road, technology-wise, that could be a help to communities?
Yeah, we've had 4 or 5 of our snow ops clients get into AVL. I mean, 20 years ago, people talked about it, but nobody really wanted to talk about it. Now everybody's doing it, and that's great. But they really want to get more of a return on investment. And so the idea is to embed information in your street center lines because you know how many passes, for example, it takes to clear a road, and try to have your activity when your plows are down or your salters and spreaders are on to be able to paint the road, if you will, in your GIS live. So some of that activity has begun, and I think there's more of it to come as all of these technologies kind of mature so that we can get more value out of our GPS tracking dollars.
Oh, that's great. And have you had inquiries about route optimization?
We have, I think that it's a highly specialized field. It's a highly modeled field. And there's some players out there that have served some of our clients already. And so, we want to focus our time where our clients need us to. They seem to have resources for this. But we are intrigued by the route modeling that a few of our clients have done. I think Shrewsbury is seeing some good results. I know Sudbury has as well. I think that's good stuff. I think our hope is to take that information and try to get some real-time ROI out of it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Talking about the AVLs, John, I'll go back to you for a minute. That certainly has to have staff buy-in. Can you talk a little bit about that process?
That's something we're working on right now, because this is the first year I think we're going to be really utilizing the AVLs. I know one of the big concerns that a lot of people have as soon as they know that, we have a tracker on the vehicle is, sure, they're looking at me all the time, and, it's kind of big brother looking over my shoulder. And I think that's the biggest challenge with it. I think as they start to see the route optimization, like Nick said, where they're seeing that it's helping them, again, it's trying to get them to see that this is something that's going to be a benefit to them, and it's not a negative. That's the biggest challenge. But I think it's when they see the benefit of it is how they're going to get the buy-in. We're going to get the buy-in for it.
Yeah, it'd be nice if we had time to just watch everybody on the screen what they're up to, but that doesn't translate for supervision either. But anyway, Nick, are there other technologies that, now that you've got the program up and going, that you're looking at down the road, or that you think would be a benefit to your program?
Well, John talked about the road watch and the road temperature sensors and stuff. It's something I want to look into soon. I mean, we have all this equipment, all these tools in the toolbox. If you don't have it, you can't use it. I do have ground temperature sensors on my truck and my foreman's truck. And of course, we're never together. We're always on opposite sides, always looking. So the ground temperature sensors, we actually use precise temperature sensors. It tracks dew point, frost point, relative humidity, ground and air temperatures. So of course, he's on one side of town, I'm on another. and then we swap and vice versa. We're both seeing, we have that live with us all the time. We both carry iPads in our trucks, and that carries, everything's on Google based. It carries all of our maps, all of our timesheets. So along the same lines of what John's doing and what Kevin can provide with the tracking all your stuff, we have everything with us all the time too. And we saw what happened with COVID. A lot of our admins were working from home, so they were taking calls from home during snowstorms and whatnot. And with the complaint lists and stuff, they were answering phones on their laptops and from the comfort of their couch, so to speak. I can see them put complaint list, adding to the complaint list on that Google-based spreadsheet, live real time, right in my truck. So I mean, honestly, during a storm, you never have to sit behind a computer. It's always with you. That's something we developed and put into play well over 3 years ago. It works very well.
Dave, I muted you.
Do you have any contracted plow services that help you in your operation?
We certainly do. We're probably 50%. We used to have about 30, 32 pieces. The last couple of years, it's been scaled back, not by my doing, but just I think by the nature of the business. We're down to about 20 now, 22 at most. Of course, you're not going to get the response time, and you know, you're putting one truck on a route instead of two, or one piece of equipment instead of two. I think it's just the nature of the business at this point. You don't see as many people getting into it, but we don't track those guys. Those are, I mean, I had the capability of doing it with the program with the route optimization, but you have to have a tablet for every vehicle, and that's just, it's quite the cost to gain all of that.
Okay. And John, can you talk a little bit about, I know, you know, here we're going to have some staffing challenges this year, not necessarily due to COVID, but just people leaving hard to fill positions and even contractors. Can you talk about how that may affect our operation?
Sure. Yeah, we're definitely, as our staff, we're down a number of positions that we're in the process of filling, but also in speaking with our contractors, they're dealing with the same issue. So one of the things we're doing is we're reevaluating how many supervisors we have that don't have assigned routes, and seeing if some of those supervisors may get an assigned route. Also, you know, we're starting to set priorities for our parking lots. Which are the parking lots that need to be addressed during the storm? Do we have lots that we may be able to not address and plow during the storm and wait until the storm is completed and then go and plow those parking lots? Because I think obviously the priorities are mains, sub-mains, and then, you know, residential streets versus a school lot that's not going to be used until, you know, Monday or Tuesday if it's a weekend storm, or the next day. You know, and that's the biggest challenge. You know, the goal is to keep the quality standard up and to keep the safety up, but make adjustments in areas that may not have that importance. But because we were full staff, we could do it. Now we may have to kind of reevaluate that and maybe eliminate some of those things that aren't quite as important, so that we get the safety taken care of in those priority areas.
Yeah, certainly staffing has become a challenge over the last few years, and that's something that you know, communities will continue to work on and see what we can do, especially when it comes to snow operations, where it's all hands on deck, and safety is the critical piece. So, so I'm just going to ask back to you, Nick. So what would you consider some of the most important factors when you're developing your winter program?
I'm going to say the staff that you have. I mean, we have a great crew right now. We got a bunch of good guys and girls. We got everybody's learning. I'm sending them to training. We're utilizing Bay State roads with their snow and ice program, that the class that they have out. I mean, that's one thing. If we can teach them on the forefront, I think that's my biggest asset.
Okay, and how about you, John?
I think one of the big keys is just better utilizing the items that we have available to us, you know, finding out what we have that's working and tweaking it, you know, constantly training. I know we're sending a good portion of our staff to some more training this year, to kind of have them hone their skills. If we have fewer people doing the same amount of work, one of the goals would be to become more efficient at it, so that it doesn't necessarily equate into more time, but maybe, being more efficient. So better using the skills that we have available to us. And for us, one of the bigger things this year is working with the AVLs to help with that route optimization, like Nick was talking about.
Okay. And last question, I'll just throw over to Kevin. What do you see as anything in your field that could be emerging as a technology that could help communities, and especially in the snow management area?
I think it's going to be, our clients are talking to us about being a platform that pulls all these things together. Right now you've got information from us about all your costs. You've got an AVL program running on a different screen, and bringing those together. You've got GIS information, and maybe GIS and AVL are working together a little more in the future and talking to each other. We've got the desire to maybe augment our spreading of salt over environmentally sensitive areas, and it'd be nice to be able to see that. I think it's really cool. Shrewsbury's had computers with them at all times for 3 years. That's great. I think they're a little ahead of the curve, and good for them, but we see more of that. And once you have that tablet, it's really kind of nice, because what more can you put on that tablet? So I think aggregating these technologies and bringing them together is kind of what we see coming. Okay,
great. Thank you. So with that's kind of the formal, presentation that we wanted to get out there. So I would encourage you to put questions in the chat. We've got about 15 more minutes to the program. We do have that hard stop at noon. So certainly, take advantage of the panel that you have here from experience as to things that they're doing in the field, what's working, what's not, what they've tried. So
Dave, I did
yes.
I did turn on everyone's microphone, so if they want to if they want to ask a question. John Olson from Rhode Island, a little while back, he may have put a comment saying that he's a storm manager app for storms in Rhode Island, and he wants to know if anyone else is using this, the storm manager app.
Okay, so
is there anyone else?
And while we're waiting for that, Dave, I have a question.
Yes.
And we have a lot of public works professionals on the call today, and a lot of public works directors. And I guess the big topic that I've heard, and particularly recently at the Bay State Roads Advisory meeting, was managing expectation. We talk about crews not having enough folks to do it, not being able to be as efficient as possible, all of those sorts of things. So I guess a question I would have for the panel or for anyone else is, how are you managing expectation with the public that, what you used to be used to may not be, you may not be seeing that anymore. And you're just wondering how folks are handling that public message.
Okay, so I'll speak for Lexington, and John alluded to it. With our shorter staff this year because of vacancies, and even some contracted plow drivers that have dropped off, we are going to have to manage that. So I've already met with our town manager to kind of go over that. And as John mentioned, we're not going to sacrifice quality of what we're doing, but where it might have, if we had an overnight storm, we might have been able to provide school opening right at regular time the next morning. They may now have a 2-hour delay, or they may have to cancel altogether depending on the nature of the storm. So we're going to have those discussions with the select board, with the school committee, to set those expectations before we get snow, and let them know, our commitment is to do what we do and what we've been doing, but our resources are not going to allow us to do that. So it's really, to me, the key is getting that word up front. You don't want to go through 3 or 4 storms and, they're all looking at you. Well, you guys are doing a lousy job. We don't have school. The roads aren't plowed, by 7 a.m., things like that. We want to direct that narrative. I'll turn it over to Nick to see where Shrewsbury is at.
Yeah, I'm right along the same lines, Dave. We historically, and it's coming up pretty quick, we always have a sit down, myself, our public building superintendent, the superintendent of schools, town manager. We set that expectation early on. We always, sidewalks have been a big issue, but the same guys plowing the sidewalks are the same guys behind the wheel of the plow trucks, the salt trucks. There's only so many hours in a day. So we always set those expectations. I know sidewalks are priority, but we have, there may be a delay in getting to them. We'll always get to them when we're going to put them on the forefront, but it may not happen until the day after the storm. So it's just setting those expectations. We always have that conversation, at least in the last 4 years since I've been in this seat. We set that up early.
Thanks. And Nick, there was a question in the chat, and I'll direct this one to you as to how the tablets are working in the field. Do you rely on Wi-Fi hotspots, or how does the internet connection work?
Yeah, these are all live. The ones that we have are live. Our IT department sets them up, and they're all like on their own cellular plan. I have nothing that's on a hotspot already.
Okay, great. Okay, do you see any more questions, Regina, or are people able to raise hands, or?
People are allowed to unmute themselves and just ask the question.
Okay, so if anybody has a question, I'd be happy to entertain that. If you want to unmute, go right ahead.
All right, well, we finish up for the day. Rich, you wanna?
Yeah, good. No, this is, I think it was great topics. Dave, I like your response on managing expectations, wet, black, and safe. We want to get there, but it sounds like, it just may take a little longer than it used to, right? And so, the key is safety, right? So, again, want to thank everybody for coming this morning. You can reach out to any of the panelists on your own. We have Nick in Shrewsbury, and John and Dave in Lexington, and Kevin at People GIS. If you want to reach out to them, if you have specific questions, feel free to do that. Again, a reminder, November 17th, Kenya Rutland. Again, all of our New England Chapter Connect sessions are at no cost. We like to keep them strictly to an hour, so we don't have to take up too much of your day. And they're all recorded, so if you want to share them with your crew and staff over maybe a lunch period or something like that, you can get them right on our website at newengland.apwa.net. So want to thank everybody again. Again, thanks to the T2 Center and Regina for producing today's program today, and certainly for our panelists sharing ideas and experiences. So thank you.
Rich, I'd like to thank Nick, John, and Kevin for taking the time to be part of the panel. I think we learned from each other, and that's the purpose of these Chapter Connects, to just kind of get some information out there and then have that dialogue as we go. So we appreciate Nick, John, and Kevin spending the time to share their insights and what they've seen in the field, because I think that helps everybody moving forward. So
absolutely. And one other plug, we sent out surveys for topics that are of interest to you. Please let us know. We want to have a good stable of topics that we're ready to present for our members that'll help you with your operations. So if you have any ideas, send them along to us, and we'll get those in the queue. So, Regina, I don't know if there's anything else, but otherwise I think we're good.
Yeah, we are good. We're good. We will be having a December session this year as well. We'll get some information out that, and it's going to be a roundtable regarding drones in public works. So awesome. We'll have that information out soon too.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the sunny, warm weather today. We know what's coming.
Finally, sunshine, but yes, thank you.
Started snowing in Colorado.
Good luck.
First time today.
Excellent.
Thanks all.
All right, thank you.